All right, well, as people are signing in, I'm going to go ahead and finish my roll call, my virtual roll call here. So I've been checking the boxes as people are signing in, but I'm sure I've missed some people. So Alan Evans, are you here? I see Mike Davis, so. Okay. Jennifer Holland? Jared? Melissa Linder? Lisa McLean? Oz, are you there? Jan Teacher? Susan? I see you. Okay. David, I think David's out of town. Councillor Rocca, I do see you. Brooke, are you there? Okay, I see you. Monica? I think Monica mentioned she may not be able to make it. I know Terry Steenbergen wasn't able to make it. And Raven, is Raven there by any chance? Okay. All right, well, we'll call the meeting to order at 10:03 a.m. And just going down the rosters, introduction and new members. We don't have any new members this time, but Jessamine, would you like to introduce Scott?
Scott Justice?
Yes, you mentioned that he was going to be signing in for it.
Okay, I just wanted to check. I didn't know if there were more Scotts on here. Yeah, well, Scott is the new, I believe, the new marketing and communications director for the Chamber of Commerce. And I was able to meet with him recently, and he's just a fantastic addition to the Chamber, to this committee, and to Astoria. And he's done a lot of work with the houseless population, I believe, in the Berkeley area. And I was just really impressed with his passion and enthusiasm. So I felt like I wanted to see if he could be added to these host meetings. So luckily, Chief said that was fine. So Scott, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add. I'm just really glad that you're here.
Scott, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
It sounds like Scott's having some technical difficulties, but welcome, Scott. And if you get your audible fix, then you can chime in at any time later. So thanks for being here, and feel free to sign on anytime. Let's see here. So Mayor, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Chief. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. The only quick update I have from the city, not directly addressing homelessness, but indirectly through addressing housing, is we've begun the process of looking at the development or redevelopment of Heritage Square. We've hired a consultant who has been interviewing stakeholders around the community and will continue to interview stakeholders, and we'll be making an initial presentation to the City Council at our next meeting, which is on October the 4th. And he's also talking to developers. So we're going to see what he's come up with as far as community needs. I have my own feelings that I've expressed to the consultant regarding using that space, at least in part, to provide additional housing and taking a little bit of the pressure off of our market, which, as you know, has seen quite a bit of change over the past, or acceleration of changes over the past year and a half. And so if you feel you have a need to give that input to John Southgate, let me know if you haven't been reached out to already. Otherwise, if you're interested in that project, plan to dial into the City Council meeting on October the 4th and make your comments known. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. And just acknowledging a couple other people that signed in. Monica, good morning, welcome. And Chelsea, I do see you signed in. I remember now that Terry said you'd be signing in on behalf of the harbor, so thank you for being here. Lisa, I see you signed in. Good morning. Chief Ham, welcome aboard. Please don't steal any of our good ideas. And happy to have you here, though. So just a few items of housekeeping. One of the things is our minutes taking. Different people have taken minutes over the years. Most recently, Megan McCall. Megan is no longer with CCA, but she said she was willing to help us with the minutes. But I reached out to her, and she has a new position in social services in Colorado. So I wish her the best of luck in her endeavors, but she's not able to help us with the minutes. So Arlene has graciously accepted to take minutes this morning. So thank you, Arlene. I appreciate that. We will also record this meeting, or are recording this meeting, so that it'll be captured through the Zoom recorder thing. And then the other thing I will mention is one of our longtime guests of the Homeless Task Force mentioned through channels that we weren't doing a good job posting the minutes and the agendas on the city's website. And he's right. Part of it was a little bit of a communication breakdown between myself and the city manager's office, and letting them know, putting them on the list when we're setting the meeting, so they weren't making it on the calendar all the time. Some of them were, but we are going to now be archiving all the minutes. Will be on the city's homepage under archives of other meetings that are in the city. So this is a public meeting. We will be posting all the minutes from all the different meetings, and we will post the agendas well in advance, as always, subject to change. But I just wanted to share that information. So thank you to the individual that brought that forward. So we are working on fixing that ASAP. So with that being said, the minutes went out this morning from the last meeting. Again, thank you to Lisa McLean for putting those out. I will get those out in a more timely manner in the future, as hopefully there's somebody who's had a chance to review those minutes and would like to make a motion.
Actually, Chief, why don't we let's just hold off till the next meeting on those.
Okay. I will add that to the next meeting agenda. So I will send those out again with the minutes from today's meeting, and then we'll make a new motion at the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor. So just jumping right into Monica, county update.
Sure. So a lot of different things going on, but in regards to the ARPA money, as I mentioned before, we go before the board each time we're going to be spending any of those monies. And so one of the things that we just went to the board for last night was in regards to broadband. And so they'll be moving forward with spending some of those on getting broadband in the more rural areas. But at our next meeting scheduled for October 6th, we'll be going before them to talk about nonprofit funding, emergency shelter funding, and then also navigation center funding. And so we have received proposals from Lifeboat Services, formerly Filling Empty Bellies, and the Beacon House for navigation center. We will be going before them with funding requests from the Astoria Warming Center, and then also from Clatsop Community Action. And so we'll be presenting those proposals to the board and finding out where they're at with those requests. And then what would happen if approved, we would then be going and preparing application or contracts with each of those agencies for the funding. We're trying to be very thoughtful in how we spend these monies. While $7.8 million is a lot of money, we want to make sure that at the end, when that money is spent, that we can show that we've really moved the needle and not just kind of thrown out money here and there. So we're trying to be very thoughtful in the approach to how those dollars get spent. Something else that I've brought up before is just the county's land inventory and how we can use those assets either to help with low-income housing development, affordable housing development, and and working with those nonprofit developers and having that land as being an asset that can help bring the cost of the development down. So we're looking at that, but we're also looking at what would the possibility be for some of those lands to be used as other types of transitional housing. One area that has regularly come up is in regards to, I don't want to call them tiny homes because there are really expensive tiny homes, but just more transitional modular housing. And some people are familiar with like Opportunity Village, pallet houses, that type of concept. And so we have been getting a lot of information from some people on this task force, some people on the Seaside Task Force, as well as just community members. And so looking at what would that look like? What would it be in regards to law enforcement impacts, city zoning requirements, and those types of things. And so that's another thing. And then I just got off of another meeting where we're working with Colpack in regards to a brownfield cleanup project. And a lot of times when people think of brownfield, they think of highly contaminated soils, but it's not just necessarily contamination. It's also just like blighted properties that have a lot of garbage and junk that needs to be cleared out. And so we had a meeting a few weeks ago with the city of Astoria, the city of Warrenton, Kevin from Cedar. We were all there and looked at and identified a variety of properties that might be able to be assessed as part of this project. And so they're not necessarily properties that are for sale or owned by a municipality, but owned by a private owner. But what would it look like if we were able to acquire those properties for different things, such as housing? And some of those properties identified in Astoria were Blue Ridge, out by the east end of town. Some areas where there are abandoned gas stations, and then we also identified a property down south of Seaside at the 101 and 26 junction, and then several properties identified by Mayor Balancey in Warrenton. And so again, just trying to explore opportunities where we can get grant funding to try and help clean up properties and then repurpose those properties for various types of housing. So that is all I have, unless there's any questions for me.
Monica, I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said at the very beginning, what the funding was. If you could repeat that, please.
The funding in regards to the Brownfield project?
No, way back.
Oh, the ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act monies.
American
Rescue Plan Act.
Okay, great, thanks.
It used to be American Rescue Act, and then they changed it because they wanted the word plan in there. So
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Monica? All right, thank you, Monica. I appreciate the update. It's good stuff. So next on the agenda, I had Oz doing an update on filling empty bellies and the Beacon Clubhouse. I don't see Oz here. Oz, are you out there? Okay, well, maybe he'll chime in at some point. I will say that myself and my deputy chief, Eric, we got a little tour the day before yesterday of the new location on 1015 Commercial. And I think they're really doing some great stuff there. I think he has a good plan. I think Oz is going to be a good manager. And we toured both the Filling Empty Bellies on the lower level and then the Beacon Clubhouse on the upper level. He talked to us about, how they're going to be looking for referrals from mental health, answered a lot of our questions that I wasn't clear on in terms of how the referrals come in and why they only come based on mental health potential clients. They're working on a food pantry. They have a clothes closet. And so they're potentially going to be doing a form of a warming shelter at some point. So I think they're really doing some good things for the community. I believe they've been open since around August, and going to be interesting to see. He understands the potential implications for other businesses in that area, but he's fully aware of that, and he's going to be working on monitoring that situation. So we support and encourage what he is doing there. So congratulations to him and Aaron. So good work. Anybody else that might have more information than I do on anything else that's going on there?
Can you hear me now, Chief Spalding?
Yes, got you now, Scott.
Excellent. I met with Ozark the other day. We had a great meeting. He was talking to me mostly about funding because I do have a development and fundraising background in nonprofit. I did mention earlier I was actually on the board of a $40 million social service, critical care, homeless service organization in the Bay Area. So very familiar with what we're doing here, and I'm glad to participate. I had a great conversation with him last week. He gave me the tour as well, and I was really encouraged by his funding streams and really where he was going to collect that money. So I was encouraged about what he's doing. So I was just giving my support behind him as well.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you weighing in because I don't feel qualified to give an update on their behalf, but did want to share that, we got a chance to tour their facility. So anybody else have any other information?
I will just say we toured it with Mayor Jones, been a couple months, I think. And one thing that I think is going to be really positive about this, as far as them being co-located, because as you mentioned, the Beacon Clubhouse does require a mental health referral. And so I think by having down in the basement area where Filling Empty Bellies is, their goal is to have different types of services down there, one of those services being CDH. And so oftentimes you might have somebody when they're coming into the facility, because they had this happening when they were located over in the church, people just come in or they hear about it and so they want to come, but they don't have that mental health referral. And so by having this co-location now, the opportunity for somebody to come and say, hey, what are you doing in here? Well, if you don't have a referral, we're going to have you go downstairs so you can talk to somebody, and then you can come in here. So it's, they don't want to make people feel excluded when you have somebody who's like interested in becoming a part of something, but they do have those requirements because that is a part of the NAMI organization. And so that is a requirement that they have to stick with. So having that co-location is going to be a huge benefit, I think.
Okay, good. That's encouraging. Okay. Mike Davis, Helping Hands, program updates.
Good morning. So our shelters are pretty full right now. In the women's long-term reentry, we have 11 women and 1 child. We do have 8 bunks available in our emergency shelter for women. 6 of those women have jobs and 1 is looking. In our men's shelter, we've got 23 men in our long-term reentry plan. Our program, and we've got 3 bunks available in our emergency shelter. 15 of those men already have jobs and 3 are looking right now. When it comes to COVID, it's been a little tricky for us. Since December of 2020, at that location in Astoria, we've only had 7 total cases. In the last 2 months, we've had 0, which has been really good. So we've been really working to tamp that down and keep our folks protected. Overall, our organization, which we operate 11 facilities in 5 counties, we've only had a total of 9 cases so far. And so our protocols that we've put in place have really been working. Some of the biggest challenges, obviously lack of affordable housing, but the lack of transportation with the cut in the bus schedules and the number of buses running, it's been harder for our participants to be able to get around. Otherwise, they're doing really well. They're working the program. They're continuing to take all their classes, attend their group meetings. And so we've seen a lot of good progress there. So that's all I have updates, unless there's any questions.
I don't have a question, but I just want to comment because you talked about the transportation piece, and I don't know if other people are aware of this, but Jeff Hayes, the executive director of the Sunset Empire Transit District, is working with really trying to push at the state level, trying to get training in the prison, so that way they can train those prisoners who are getting ready to be released to be bus drivers. Obviously, that not all people who are coming out of prison would be able to go into that role, depending on the type of crime that they have. But it's hope that they can put some sort of simulation system in the prisons, so that way they can train these individuals, because one of the biggest things to prevent recidivism is them being able to go and having a job. And so if they're already trained and then getting out of prison and being able to be part of our workforce would help a problem that we're having in regards to being able to find bus drivers, but also helping these individuals immediately be able to transition into something. So I just thought that was something positive.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. Mike, I don't know if you're in a position to maybe give just a quick thumbnail on the progress of Bobby Lakes Hope Center. I know they're doing some great stuff out there, but I know you're not directly involved, but you're obviously in the inner circle. So if there's anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, so it's been going really well. United Way of Columbia Willamette, our Portland chapter here, granted Bobby Lakes a $1.2 million grant to finish out the renovations that need to be completed so we can open up. And so we started construction in July again. And when I say construction, it was probably 85% of the demolition was already done. And so they came in, we did the last of the demolition. And so now we're building it back up as far as fixing up the inside to make it a usable space for us. Our anticipated date to be open is by winter of 2021. So come this December or January 1st, we will be fully open and functioning. It'll take our shelter from 126 beds to a total of 318 beds. And our projections show, based off of our data model, that all the data that we collect, that we'll be able to help roughly 4,700 unique individuals per year through this facility. And that'll be both emergency shelter and our long-term reentry program. This is going to be a very unique building that we'll have here because we'll have medical, dental, behavioral health on site to be able to support people. We're in conversations to be able to provide intense outpatient therapies for folks that have gone through detox and things like that. And so we'll be able to provide the one-on-one counseling. We'll be able to provide the classes that are needed and everything. We've got a lot of kiddos running around here right now. The dorm is for families is full, and we have a partnership with the public schools that's working really well. We have play spaces for them, and so and over half of our participants here are employed. So it's been running really well. Unfortunately, with COVID, we've been able to only keep to right around 50 participants at the time being. We did start to open it up more when the restrictions lifted, but we had to pull back again with the Delta variant. And so, we're very excited about this program here in the facility here. And once we can get past COVID, it's going to help a lot of people.
All right, great. Thank you, Mike. Anybody have any final questions for Mike?
I haven't been secretary for a long time. So, Mike, did you say that there will be 318 beds by around January 1st?
Yeah, so it'll have a total of 318 beds. Depending on COVID, though, it could restrict the amount of folks that we can have in here at the time. Was there other questions, Arlene?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, Ron, Opportunity Village, or perhaps formerly known as.
Yes, yeah, so first of all, we have a name change. We are now calling ourselves Clatsop Opportunity Village because of the countywide effort. And our guiding committee is changing the name to a advisory committee. And our committee consists of Terry Steenbergen and Amy Baker, Vivia Matthews, Monica Steele, Lauren Wilson, and myself. And the change to advisory committee allows us to be a signer for a fiscal partnership when we find a sponsor that wants to take us on, when we find a nonprofit that wants to take on this project. Legal requirements for fiscal sponsorship is that the sponsor actually takes on our goal, takes on the goal, which is the creation of a transitional village. And so I'm currently talking to a nonprofit, and we will see if the planets all align. Maybe I'll have some good news next meeting. But that's where we're at, because we need that fiscal sponsorship for the coverage of insurance and what we do, that what the village goes forth and does needs to be insured, and the sponsor takes on that responsibility. They essentially take on the project. And so we would become then changing to a subcommittee of that nonprofit, which would mean that we'd probably be breaking away from the host status of a subcommittee and moving on towards working with that sponsor. So that's where we're at now, and I am hopeful that we can find that sponsor and move forward with the project. So thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any questions for Ron? Bruce, did I see your hand up?
Yes, please. Yeah, I was just wondering, Ron, why you're not looking into creating your own nonprofit to handle this. I imagine other nonprofits are fairly well tasked with their own financial responsibilities. Have you looked into creating a nonprofit to take this on?
Yes, initially we did, and the guiding committee, or the advisory committee at that time, directed us to, because we don't have the personnel in our committee right now to actually accomplish a nonprofit. And so this is a position that, as startup group, which is very common, they umbrella under a nonprofit until they get going, and then there's a possibility of forming later after we garner more public support for this project, and then maybe we can move into a nonprofit status.
Have you had any response from any of the, I guess, more obvious choices, Filling Empty Bellies, Homeless Center, and so on? Yeah,
I am. I don't want to tell right now but I am in conversation with one, yes. And hopefully, I think that in the long run, that would be a very positive thing to actually come together rather than creating another nonprofit. So thank you for the question.
All right. No other questions. Thanks again, Ron. I appreciate your work on that. Non-agenda item, Chief Ham, if I could maybe put you on the spot just for a second and maybe tell me a little bit about some of the goings on in Seaside? I know you guys are working on some good things too. You have a new committee formed and what have you. Anything you'd be comfortable sharing?
Yeah, sure. You're probably aware, maybe not, in the last several months, there had been many community meetings that the city council had kind of sponsored forums to bring in, really a diverse group of people to come in and talk about concerns. They've then taken, after those, I believe they had about 5 of those meeting workshops, and have created a kind of a task force to try and come up with some strategies. So there's quite a bit of a group of about 12 of us or so, I'm not sure the exact amount, getting together. We've had a couple meetings now. We're going to meet weekly for about 5 weeks and see what we can come up with, some action items and strategies to get Seaside moving towards whatever that determination is where they want to go. So in addition to that, I believe the council will be working on some updated ordinances for, addressing the changes in, laws for homeless and whatnot. But right now it's pretty wide open discussion from many different angles. So hopefully that answered your question.
It does. And I appreciate that. And, sorry to put you on the spot, but
no problem.
I know you're all knowing, so it's all good. Okay, so it looks like we are at member roundtable point. We're moving along pretty good today. So we'll start. Viviana, sorry.
Good morning. I think Susan from CCA was supposed to present.
Yes, you are right.
All right. So sorry about interrupting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Susan, I'm sorry. I totally skipped over that. So Susan and Jody and Cheryl, update on the liaisons. Thank you.
I knew you were going to get to me eventually, so it's okay. So August was a really busy month for our homeless liaisons. I'll just speak really briefly with some statistics and data, and then I'll step back and I'll let Cheryl and Jody actually give you a more on the ground recap, I guess, for you. But in leading in, I would say that CCA utilizes a database called Service Point, and we collect universal HUD data elements from clients. So as a disclaimer, there are clients that I will give numbers for that are not included in this report, as we have some clients that will refuse to participate within our database, but we will not refuse service to anybody that comes to us for not wanting to share their information. So in August, our homeless liaisons actually met with 83 individual clients, 45 of those from Astoria, and they provided over 300 services to clients, various services to unsheltered and also housing insecure individuals and families. Of those, 10 identified as veterans and 35 identified as chronically homeless, which would be 4 or more periods of homelessness over 12 months. 55 were men and 28 were women. And although the ages vary from 18 to 62, the highest number of unsheltered individuals they worked with were within the 35 to 44-year-old age range. 76 identified as non-Hispanic. And I think that one of the most important statistics that we found was that 60% of females that our homeless liaisons encountered last month reported they had been victims of domestic violence during their time being homeless. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll turn it over to Jody and Cheryl to just share a little bit more about their day-to-day, their work, their challenges, and then one of their biggest successes from August.
Do you want to go ahead, Cheryl? I think Cheryl has the information that we were, or the information that we were going to share.
I had actually just put together, a quick little narrative of one of our big successes this month. It's been a busy month, meeting with a lot of people. There's a lot of feeling that winter's coming. Winter's coming, and people are trying to scramble to get some things done. One person, I'm not going to use his name, I'm going to call him Red. I'm sure several people will know who he is. He's well known to us. He's been unhoused for several years. And unfortunately, he is well known to law enforcement. And he's accumulated quite his share of tickets, mostly for behaviors relating to being homeless. He has autism. He has some learning difficulties. He's been someone we check on regularly. Most recently, he was down on the waterfront under a tree behind a thicket of blackberry bushes. And when we'd ask him about his night, he'd often tell us about spider bites or waking up in the water because of the incoming tide. When we learned he was near the top of the list at the low-income apartment, we reminded him to check in with the manager. And from there, things moved really quickly. Some people that were ahead of him on the list didn't need housing, and he didn't have ID. We had to work on that, getting him some ID, and we were able to obtain that. We got him moved in very quickly. And some of the things that we do, and we've done for him and for others, as they're transitioning to housing, we helped him with energy assistance. We brought him food from the food bank. We helped him acquire some household items. He was very fortunate that the person that had the apartment prior to him, when they found out that it was him moving in, left a lot of things for him. So that was good. And basically, his transition is going really well. It's been one of the easier ones. He's loving it. He talks a lot about, keeping his apartment clean. He seems to be following the rules. So I really feel like that was one of our big successes last month. And then some other successes I feel like we met with Chief Spalding yesterday. I think we really started to maybe kind of understand each other and what we're expecting from each other. So I think that was a big success this month. Jody, you want to share what you feel like?
I think we've had a lot of successes this month. It's been a really, really busy month. And I think, we're still trying to get a picture of what this is going to be going like forward too. So we're kind of anticipating what's going to happen in the next few weeks, see what's going to happen with a little bit of the weather change. Other than that, I think everything's going really well.
I would just like to add, because we had the opportunity to meet with you all a month or so ago, and I mean, a lot of people on this call probably understand it, but I think that not just the unhoused population that you are all working with, but once you house them, it's not just a matter of now you're housed, good luck, and the follow-up and time that is spent on making sure that those that you do find housing for are able to adjust to that new life, and making sure that they are able to stay that way. And so not everybody in the community, I think, understands that it's a difficult transition and the amount of time and energy that gets spent on that aspect of it as well. So good job.
Thanks, Monica.
Yeah, thank you, Monica, for that. The homeless liaison, once they help house somebody, then they connect that person to a case manager here at CCA to offer other additional services. That could be, this person might be veteran, this person might need energy assistance, they might need many different things for them to be successful and stay housed. So yes, and I also want to report that as the goal of CCA is to make sure that we have, established goals and metrics for the homeless liaisons. So we have met with the police department from Seaside, Astoria, some other businesses and other nonprofits too, just to set up goals and metrics and make sure that the program continues if it's successful. And to me, helping people be housed and stay housed, or helping, the more we can to the unsheltered population, it is a success. And then Cheryl and Jody talked about just one individual being housed, but last month they were helping over 10 to be housed and stay housed, which is very difficult, as you mentioned. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today and present a little bit of our homeless liaison, what they do in a small scale, daily duties, and also the big one, which is establishing goals. And we'll present those goals by the next meeting. So thank you.
This is Lisa from the County Health Department. I just want to say that CCA has provided our wraparound services with our COVID response for all the positive cases that we've had the last few months in our community, and they've done a wonderful job of helping us with all those wraparound services, and I think they really need to be recognized for the work that they've been doing. And, we know as the County Health Department, we could not do it without their help.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. And on another happy note, I don't want this to be the CCA show, but we have, during the past months, we have helped over 200 families stay housed with over $1 million on rental assistance. So on top of the homeless liaisons and the wraparound services, we continue to help our community stay housed with the rental assistance, energy assistance, and case management. And we also have other housing programs and the veteran services. So thank you for the community to put the trust in CCA to do the best we can to be a positive impact in our community. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Viviana. And I'll just echo what Cheryl mentioned. Yesterday, myself and Senior Officer Kenny Hansen, met with both the liaisons and Susan and Bernice and had a really good conversation. And this is a growing program. And it's, as both the liaisons mentioned, it started out a little slow, but it's slowly building. And I see this in time as being something that will grow and hopefully even add more people. It is a valuable program. And, I think it's just because it's a new program and none of us have had a lot of experience or any experience with doing something like that, there's the typical growing pains. And, eventually we're going to get to a place where this is now the new norm. So I'm looking forward to that. And I appreciate the ongoing conversations. And, we're talking about some creative things. And one of the things is, looking at some of our frequent flyers. We have a new individual in town. Just in 3 weeks he's been here, has racked up 55 calls for service. And, some of these individuals are maybe the most needy. And, do we focus on some of these individuals to get them the assistance they need to stop the revolving door for us? Because from at least a law enforcement perspective, our goal is to reduce calls for service, and at the same time, if we're getting people help, it's a win-win for everybody. So great program. And, I hope that people don't have unrealistic expectations of what we can accomplish. We've heard some of these individual case studies. It's difficult. There's a lot of time and energy spent just on one individual, but if we're helping one individual, we're making progress. So, I appreciate all their work and the leadership of CCA and look forward to great things to come out on the horizon. Kenny, do you have anything you want to add to that? I know you're kind of boots on the ground and dealing with a lot of these individuals.
No, not really. Just that we're doing what we can with the resources we have, things like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenny. Any other questions or any questions at all for Susan or the liaisons or Viviana? All right. Well, you guys did a great job then presenting, so no questions. So good stuff. All right. Again, sorry for passing over you. That was a mistake on my part. So now we will move to the member roundtable. So any of our members, and then we will go to our guests. So any of our members have anything for the good of the order?
I do, Chief Spalding.
Yeah, hi, John.
I just wanted to mention that the Parks Department currently has a posted position for a new maintenance role for our department, which will be focused on the downtown area and tourist-related facilities, including the Riverwalk and 9th Street Park, Garden of Surging Waves, and a lot of other sites. So they'll also be focused on doing public restroom cleaning, and they'll be kind of used as a weekend and off hours care for these parks that we haven't been able to have sufficient staff to do in the past. So I know this is tangential to the homeless community necessarily, but it will be somebody that will probably be in contact and helping with cleanups if there's complaints or issues that come up. And obviously that person will work closely with the police department as well to make sure they're not displacing people's property. But it is a good entry-level opportunity. So I just wanted to throw that out there to the group if anyone knows of anyone in need of employment.
Thank you, Jonah. Anybody else? Any guests? Either raise your hand or shout out. Scott Justice.
I just want to remind everybody that we have a networking business after hours event. One of the reasons I joined the chamber, because when I was working in nonprofit, I used the chamber as one of my tools for fundraising and spreading the word about what was going on, especially in our nonprofit community. So I want to invite our nonprofit sector to come to our business after hours events. So that way you can share about what you're doing. The community is more aware about what's going on. They can ask questions, stay engaged. And also you can find more funding, more support, and more sponsors that way. So really want to encourage you guys to come out. It's the second Thursday of the month, 5:30. Check our website for locations. The next one's going to be at TLC in Warrington. So if you're over in that area, we'd love to see you. But again, it was one of the tools that I used when I was in the nonprofit sector. So I'm inviting everyone out. Hopefully you can utilize that. And that's what I'm sharing today.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Kate, I see your hand up.
Hi, thanks. I had a question for Jonah on that position that they're hiring for. Not a specific person, but is that the kind of thing that could be an employment opportunity for someone who's kind of making their way from, into stable housing, seeking employment? What are the hiring kinds of constraints that you have that, or are there ways to kind of dip into that community?
I guess, if you want to talk to me offline for specifics for it, but generally, the city has very open and equitable hiring practices. And so we're looking for experienced and reliable individuals. It is a full-time position with benefits. So it's got, a lot of opportunity for someone. It also comes with a lot of responsibility since it's a very autonomous job. But yeah, there's no barrier whatsoever to any particular person that would want to apply for sure. It's all dependent on experience and references and capability.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rocket.
I'm not sure if this is a contribution or a wish, but we all know the story about homeless people saying to us, everyone always tells us where we can't be, but no one ever tells us where we can be. And I'm impressed today with all the progress that's being made in various areas. But one thing we talked about a long time ago was, could we do that? Could we identify a place where homeless people who had vehicles could park, or where homeless people who needed to camp could camp where we could provide some modicum of sanitary conditions and safety and so on, and they wouldn't be hassled. It seems like if we could do that, that would have so many advantages in terms of being able to manage the situation, to not having people in places in the woods and so on where we didn't want them, where they would be more accessible for the services, and we're providing a focus point where others in the community might want to join in helping, where a church group might want to help build something that would improve the site and so on. But we've never quite gotten to that. And I know finding such a place is difficult, but I'm just wondering, is that something that's completely gone by the wayside, or is that something we still could be thinking about possibly doing as a transition for people until we can move them into these more advanced services?
Well, Councilor, I'm not really sure who that question was directed to. I know that the city manager is working on some things as we speak, and there may be some other individuals here who can weigh in. I know a lot of these things have been discussed over time, but you're right as far as moving some of them forward. Mayor, I don't know if you want to add. Also, see, I do have a hand up from Rick and Nell.
If I could just add something really quick, Chief, I know that those are conversations that the county continues to have. And I think that part of the hard part is again, where is this site going to be? And from a health perspective, when you are talking about RVs and trailers, some of the concerns are where is the waste going in regards to the gray water and everything there. And so those are conversations that we continue to have in trying to identify sites that can be placed at. But again, understanding that we do have NIMBYism that we are constantly battling. And when you do identify something, what are the barriers going to be?
Rick, would you like to weigh in?
Well, I actually had a separate topic, but just briefly, the gray water issue, I understand it's an issue, but it's already in the county being dumped somewhere. So finding a location where we really want it would be a good thing. And I'll be quiet for a couple of minutes, but I did have a different issue or question if you're ready for that.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I noticed Jonah is here and it reminded me of the Clean Slate program, and I'm wondering if he'd be willing to give us an update.
It'll be a very short update. There really hasn't been any movement there. I think the last point we got to with that group was it was very hard to ascertain if these outstanding fines or charges were truly a barrier for a large number of people. And then it was kind of a mixed bag of what to do as far as remediating that. I mean, it didn't sound like at the time that there was a whole lot of new fines being placed on people, or at least as much as possible, trying to be very light through the court system. So it was very hard to kind of get to the next steps there. And obviously, Alan Evans is less in the community. I have not seen him or we've had any contact really probably close to a year. I'm trying to remember the last time we presented any information to the group. But yeah, it was very hard to tell if these slates needed to be cleaned and how many slates were barriers to people's immediate housing and resources.
Got it. Thank you. Also, it'd be great to get an update on the employment subcommittee and the journey home. I don't know if the right people are here, but I'd look forward to it.
I'm pulling up the agenda now to refresh my memory on who the members of that committee are.
I want to say that the Journey Home one was CBH, and I don't see her on the call.
Right, and Tom Leiner was the chair of the employment, and Cindy Price is on both of those.
Right, and both, I know Tom Leiner has moved out of the area, and Cindy is no longer a member of the group, so we'll probably have to revisit it. And I know Jennifer has a lot of different irons in the fire too. So we'll probably have to revisit the membership on these subcommittees.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Okay. Councilor Rocca, I'm not sure we fully answered your question, but it's a good question. And I think it's to be continued and a lot of things working at different levels.
I'm not sure if it's a question or a wish, so
okay.
I get that.
All right, appreciate that. Just have a couple of closing comments. And Mayor, would you like to say anything before I do a couple wrap-up items?
First, there's a raised hand from Bruce.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Bruce.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I support what Roger brought up. I think that that's been a topic that has been discussed since I became involved with the homeless work in the city. And to my dissatisfaction, I see zero progress being made except a lot of talk. And I think it's mostly hold back from the city, from my observation. And it would encourage the city council to take that up as a very serious factor that would make a big difference in helping homeless people off the street. A real important transitional place. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Mayor?
Yeah, so I guess I just want to say, I really appreciate the updates, and especially because it kind of puts it out there that there's a lot of really effective work taking place every day by the people on this group and within their own organizations. I mean, housing is being provided, food assistance, energy assistance, services, mental health services are being provided to members in our community, on a daily basis by each of you within your respective organizations. And, it's unfortunate that the public never sees that. The public never sees the success stories, and there are lots of success stories. The public sees that there are still unhoused people on the streets, but they don't see all the people that have been helped, that are either in housing, or even if they're still unhoused, have been getting services, and in some case getting the services that they want and not wanting any more services. So I just want to say how much I appreciate the ongoing work that each of you does within your respective organizations. And just thank you. And also thank you for your willingness to come to these virtual meetings and just share what's happening so that everyone is aware of the different initiatives that are ongoing. A lot of good stuff coming out of the county. I want to thank Clatsop County and Monica for sharing those updates as well. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. And as I look at our roster and I go looking at my Zoom screen, all the different faces here and all the different individuals, members and guests alike, I'm guessing that every one of us could use more resources. We are all operating with less people than we would really like to have to do our jobs effectively. And I think, like the mayor said, we have accomplished a lot. I think if, we are coming up on 4 years with the host committee. I think if you would have asked me 4 years ago what I thought we could accomplish in 4 years, I would have been very wrong. But at the same time, considering the fact that we are operating with minimal resources, we are accomplishing a lot. Can we do more? Absolutely. But it's not for lack of trying. So I do appreciate everybody's efforts out there, and it's the old adage, it takes an army. One comment, I honestly don't remember if I mentioned this at our last meeting, but many of you know or knew Barry Plotkin, who passed in early August. I don't know that I had a chance to, say a couple words about Barry in our last meeting, so it bears repeating either way. Barry was a great addition to this group. He was not an official member, but he was a guest who attended many meetings. And I knew he was sick and undertaking chemo for his last year, but he remained committed to solving homelessness in our community. I will say that Barry was often very critical of things that even I did or the city, but he wasn't wrong either. He was a good man with a good heart who really wanted to do a lot for his community. I have been in some contact with his daughter, Nicole, simply because I've accidentally sent emails to inviting him to our meetings. So I think he's here in spirit. But Nicole reiterated that his commitment and passion for this topic. And so just a quick moment of silence for Barry, just to think about Barry and thank him for his service to our community. All right. Thank you, Barry. So just two last things. I think for the time being, we will remain on the Zoom format until we get out of this COVID thing. I have found that there are some advantages to meeting this way. I do miss the personal contact, but at the same time, our attendance has been up substantially. So that's a good thing. The next meeting will still be on Zoom, tentatively scheduled for November 18th. I will do a better job of getting the minutes out sooner. We will also get the agenda out once that's been set. Arlene, thank you for helping out taking the minutes. This meeting is recorded. And unless anybody has anything for the good of the order that I've missed or one last shout out, please say so, and I will otherwise end the meeting.
Thanks everyone for that moment for Barry.
Yeah, thank you. All right, take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.